creatives, Karen here, mixed media artist and creative at By the Wolf Moon. Welcome back to part 2 of episode 3 of the Coming Home to Self series. In this video I am working on the third spread in my altered book art journal that I am creating for this series, and this one is going to be the background page for the paper dolls that we created in part 1 of episode 3. So I'm just starting off by gluing together 3 pages so that I've got a nice firm page to work on, and the other page will be the back of the spread we worked on in episode 2. I just use Mod Podge to do this, and I don't mind if the pages are wrinkled or anything like that. I think it all adds to the texture of the page. So when I started this spread, I actually didn't have a clear idea of what I was going to do. I just knew that I wanted to create a scene of some sort to incorporate the paper dolls. I did have the idea that I would like them sitting at a table, and then it sort of evolved as I went along the creative process. So now I am just putting down a base layer onto my spread. I'm just using brown paper, and it's just brown paper that I have used. It's just scrap paper that I have painted on in other creative projects and stuff. I don't throw anything like that away because it always comes in handy for doing stuff like this. For me, I wasn't so much concerned or wanting the base layer to add any colour particularly to the spread. I just wanted it for texture and stability. I also like to paste my base layer over top of the center of the pages. It gives them a bit more stability where they attach to the book, and I think they're less likely to come apart. So I ummed and ahed about having my paper dolls sitting at a table for quite a while because, as I've said before, I am not a great or talented drawer. And I didn't have any idea how I was going to create something that looked like a table that anyone else looking at it would know that it was a table. So I sort of tossed up a few different ideas, but this one was really stuck in my head, so I just went with it and figured if it didn't work out then I'd just change my mind later. But I'm actually quite happy with how it turned out. It's definitely not perfect, and I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that could do a much better job, but for me, and because this is a very personal art journal and really no one else is going to be looking at it apart from you guys here on YouTube, it doesn't bother me at all. I know that it's a table. It looks like a table to me, and I'm actually pretty pleased with how I managed to work out how to do it. So now I've got that base layer down, and I'm just taking a page that was in the book originally. It's one of the pages that I pulled out when I was preparing the book for altering, and I am just tearing it in half horizontally because I want to create 2 pockets, one on each page. Then I'm going to glue those 2 halves of the pages together so that it creates a nice firm stable pocket, and I'm going to do that on both of those pieces. I really love this part of the process. I really love the gluing part. It's not something that I have to think about too hard, and it just gives me some time to really settle into the feeling and the intent that I want to create with the spread that I am making. So it's a really good time. It's kind of like yoga for me, I suppose. It's kind of like my meditation time, gluing and pasting, letting my mind kind of not fixate on anything and just be free to enjoy the process of gluing paper to paper. So now I am going to put a base layer just on the bottom 3/4 of this pocket that I'm making. I want to keep the top quarter very flat. I don't want it to have any texture. This is just this is my idea of how a table looks. So you kind of we're looking at it straight on the table, and so the bit that I have put a base layer on is going to be more textured than the top, which is completely flat. And I am just tearing off a couple of strips which will be the top of the table and pasting those on here. So I wanted to have a separation from the top of the table and the front of the table, or the side of the table, and this was the best way I could think of to do that, using, you know, texture and non-texture. So as I was getting more into the flow of knowing where I wanted the page to go and how I was going to do it, I started thinking about my intent behind it and how the paper dolls that we made in the last episode fit in. And what I started to think was, with those six dolls that I created, and each one representing someone that I am or have been, I asked myself, are they people that I would invite to sit at my table with me? And the answer has to be yes, because they are a part of me, they are a part of who I am. And even though I may not particularly like any of those individual people, I have to allow them to be who they are, and I have to allow myself to acknowledge that that's the person I was at that time, and I have grown immensely since then, and also to be compassionate to who I was at the time that each of those dolls represents, and understand the thoughts and feelings and experiences I was having in my life at that time. So yes, I would certainly invite those people to sit at my table, even if only to offer them compassion and space to be who they are in that moment. So now I've just put some white gesso on each of the two pockets and also onto my two pages. And once I have gessoed this page, then I am going to lay a piece of brown paper over the top while it's still very wet and pull it off, which will just give the background a little bit more texture and allow some of that colour that was on the background to show through a little bit. This is how I do basically all of the pages in my altered book art journals. I just love the textured effect that it gives. And now I am going to paint these two pockets. So what I'm actually going to do is the top flat bit of the pocket I am going to paint in a slightly different shade of off-white than the textured bit, just to give a little bit more definition between the two spaces. Hopefully that makes sense. So this one is kind of a kind of creamy off-white colour. And now just quickly before I paint the bottom of this pocket, I'm going to give it some shape. So I'm going to draw kind of like a wave along the bottom so that it's kind of wavy, and it'll be like a long tablecloth. I guess it's like the table is covered in a long tablecloth. I'm really hoping this makes sense. It'll all make sense when you get to see the final image, hopefully. So I'm just drawing, yeah, just a kind of a wavy effect on the bottom of each of those pockets, and then I'm going to cut that out. Even though this is the second art journal I am completing following the Coming Home to Self series that I have done, I each time I do the same exercise again, I go a little bit deeper and learn a whole lot more about myself, and kind of understand and find a lot more compassion for myself and where I've been, where I've come from, and where I am now. So it is a really creativity has helped me so much in coming to terms with my life, and it is such a blessing to have a gift for creating. It's something that I'm truly grateful for every day, and feel so blessed to be able to have this outlet. And that's one of the reasons why I do these videos and why I'm sharing this Coming Home to Self series on YouTube, is because I would love for even just one other person to find some peace and comfort in being able to create something. So now I have put the pockets aside, and I am just going to work on the background of these two pages. I'm just starting with some basic yellow acrylic, and there's not really any plan here. I am just putting it on the page, and I didn't have a plan when I started. I just thought I might like some yellow on this page, so this is what I'm doing. And then I poured quite a bit of paint on there, so I'm just wiping a little bit of it off, but not too much, because the next thing I am about to do is, as you'll see, is put a little bit of blue on there, and I really want it to blend in, so I definitely want that paint to still be wet. And that of course is going to make green. So I really like to not have too much of a plan and not really know what colours I'm going to use or anything like that. It's so much more freeing just doing stuff and finding out what happens after you've done it. You know, than thinking about all the consequences and being worried about ruining something or ending up with a colour you don't want. So that's why I really love working like this. It's very, very freeing and so much fun. Lots and lots of fun. So you're probably also wondering why I'm bothering to paint the bottom of this page when I'm just going to be covering it up with those two pockets. And the reason for that is because I have a real issue with authenticity. Things have to be authentic. So if I didn't paint the bottom of this page, even though no one would be able to tell because it's going to be covered by a pocket, I would know that the page underneath that pocket was blank, and so that's why I have to paint it, and I have to paint it green like grass. So so that's why I am going to the trouble of doing this. I really like for things to be authentic. Now I've jumped ahead a bit because I thought I was recording and I wasn't. So basically on top of that yellow I've just put some purple paint, and now I'm putting some blue paint. And again, I'm not giving it time to dry or anything. I want the paint to be quite wet at this stage because I want it to be blendable. So just randomly, no real thought process or anything like that, just some purple and some blue. And now I'm grabbing a much lighter off-white color again. I think this one has a slightly blue tinge, and then I'm using quite a wet paintbrush, and I'm just going to paint right over the top of that background that I just painted, right over the top of the blue and the purple that I put on there. And so it's all going to blend together and create some really nice shading and texture and stuff, which is what I was wanting. I kind of wanted this page to have a bit more of a ethereal feel. So this whole book so far, without any intention on my part, has become a bit more fantasy based, or something that is not realistic. And so I wanted this page to continue in that same theme, although I really didn't think about it too much. It just kind of happened that way. But yeah, so the sky was not blue, it was kind of purpley, pinky blue colours, which is really cool, I thought, anyway. And so that is the setting for our table. A beautiful outdoors setting. So this is how the pockets will go. I still haven't painted the bottom of those pockets. What you'll probably notice when I'm working on something like this is that I tend to jump from one part to another without finishing any specific part completely. It's just how my brain works. When I think to do something, I have to do it right then and there. So back to these pockets, I'm just putting some painter's tape across the top because I want the line between the two shades of paint to be fairly crisp, and there's no way I could do that freehand. So I am now taking, as I said earlier, a shade that is slightly different to the shade I painted the top of the table. I think this one is a bit of a brighter colour than the colour I used for the top of the table. And then, because I never have the patience to wait for anything to dry, I am pulling off my painter's tape already, but it has worked fairly well. And then I had to let those dry, and now I'm just taking a little bit of that same colour paint that I used on the bottom of the table and a tiny bit of black, because I want it just slightly darker. And now I'm just going to add some shading onto that tablecloth, just at the at the top of the peak of each wave. So this will be like a fold in the tablecloth. Not really a fold, but kind of like a wave in the tablecloth. Again, this is just my idea of how to create something that looks like a table. I'm sure there are plenty of people that are far more skilled at painting a tablecloth than I am, but this kind of worked for me, so this is how I'm doing it. And then I'm just also using that same color to just paint across the line between the two different shades of paint there, just to define it a little bit more again. And that is the table basically done. So I'm bringing the book back in now, and I'm going to see how the paper dolls will fit on the page with the pockets. You can see that covering up that green really changes the page quite a lot, and I probably wouldn't have left it that green as that if I wasn't going to cover it up. But I like it much better, and you can still see it around the outsides of the table, so I do know it's there. Now I'm just lining up the paper dolls to see how they're going to fit on the page. It's actually because they're concertina folded, I needed to make sure that the fold that was going to go in the center of the book where the book folds was going the right way. So I'm going to have 4 dolls on one page and 2 on the other. And now I'm just marking out where they sit on the page because I want to have them sitting on something. So I'm going to draw with my amazing drawing skills some chairs. This is so far outside of my comfort zone, it's not funny, but you know, this is the best thing about doing your own art journal, that no one else is going to see. It's completely and utterly for me, so I can be as amateurish as I want to be and not worry about it. So at the moment, so here's the backs of my 6 chairs that my paper dolls will be sitting on, and they kind of look like tombstones, which gave me an idea for another page. Because I'm very much into Halloween-y, gothic-y, that sort of thing. That's my normal aesthetic. But anyway, they're not tombstones, they are the backs of chairs. So I'm just drawing those in pencil first just to figure out what they're going to look like and where they're going to go on the page. And then once I have done that, I have put the pockets back on again to see how they look, and I thought I'd been recording and I hadn't, so again I've done a little bit more on the background. I decided that I wanted the background to have bubbles. If you follow LorriMarie Jenkins' channel on YouTube, she has a really good tutorial for bubbles. I will link her channel in the description below. She is one of my idols. She's a mixed media artist and I just love her style, and I learnt how to do bubbles from her, so please check her out if you can. So basically I'm using the tube from a paper roll and dipping it in white paint and making circles on my page. And before I used this tube, I used a smaller circle. It was a lid off something to make smaller bubbles because I wanted different sizes to give some depth to the background. So yeah, the bubbles kind of add to the fantasy kind of theme of the page. And now I'm going to finish off the bubbles. So I've just used colour pencils. LorriMarie uses gelatos in her bubbles. I don't have any of those, and I'm all about using what I have. So I've got coloured pencils. I've just chosen 4 or 5 different colours that are kind of rainbow colours, and I am now giving my bubbles some shape and a little bit of colour. And basically the way to do that is to choose 3 or 4 different colours and kind of go around the inside of the circle just on one side, just blending them all in together. So it's a really cool effect and I really love it. So definitely check out LorriMarie's page if you're interested in learning how to do bubbles. So this is a really fun process and I highly recommend trying it out. And bubbles add fun to any situation, really, don't they? Bubbles are lots of fun, so I really enjoyed putting them on my page, because even though the whole thought process behind this journal is very serious and can be really traumatic and difficult in some ways, because you're processing things with each page we create that have probably been affecting your life for a long time. So it's a very serious your thought process that we're doing and creating in this art journal. But that doesn't mean that the pages can't be fun, and that's what I love about art. You can take a really serious topic and inject some fun and fantasy into it, and that doing that has really helped me come to terms with lots of things in my life. So now I am just colouring in the chairs that I outlined in pencil earlier, and I actually decided to do 2 different colours of chairs just because, and once I've coloured them in, I'm just going to outline them all in black. And now I am gluing on those pockets, so I am gluing down each side of the pocket and along the bottom, and here I'm just making sure that it is not sticking any further into the page than I want it to, because I've got to fit those paper dolls in there, and the 2 paper dolls on either side of the center of that page are joined, so they can't be too far apart. So that's one pocket down, and now the second one. So yeah, glue just down the side and along the bottom and up the other side. And that is this page very nearly done. I had a lot of fun doing it. I was really unsure of myself because it's way outside of my comfort zone, but again, that's another great thing about creativity. It's really great at getting us out of our comfort zones. So it was lots of fun to do. And I did have a few moments where I was like, oh, this is so crap, why am I doing it, and it's not me at all. But you know, I got over that pretty quickly and decided to just have fun with it. So I think it turned out pretty okay. So now those pockets are glued down. This is what our page looks like, and we can put the paper dolls in. I love these paper dolls so much. I love how whimsical and weird they are. I love that there's a possum in there. And Hermione Granger, and her face sticks out so much. Emma Watson is her real name. Hermione is her Harry Potter name. But she's got such a happy smile. And look at that cute little possum. Alrighty, that is the paper dolls sitting at their table. Now I'm actually going to decorate the table and finish off the page, but I did all that off camera because I really wasn't sure what I was doing or what I was going to do with that, but and I kind of did it in little, you know, fits and starts rather than all in one session, so I didn't bother recording that, but you can get the idea of the page now. Just making sure that the book closes. In order for the book to close, there does need to be a little gap between those 2 tables, but I ended up filling it in with this white paint pen. Oh, that's the last step of the bubbles, is adding a white little mark on each bubble. It gives it more of a round shape, and I'm just using a white paint pen to do that. And that kind of finishes off the page. So I really want to say thank you so much for joining me again today. I really hope you're enjoying this series, and please let me know if it's helpful to you or not. Don't let me know if you don't want to, but if you want to, let me know. That would be great. I am really enjoying putting it out here for you, and in the process helping myself, which is always a good thing. So that's those bubbles finished off now, and this here is what the final page looked like. That's the final dinner table. Thank you so much for joining me again today, and I will see you next time.